There are lines you don't cross. Mocking a pregnant woman. That's not just crossing the line, that's spitting on it, stomping it, and daring the universe to punish you. The diner sat at the bend of a two-lane highway where truckers slowed for coffee and locals came to remember why they still liked each other. Neon script hummed in the window, open 24 hours, though everyone knew 24 meant as long as Linda could keep her eyes open. The ceiling fans ticked like lazy metronomes. Grease perfumed the air, softening even bad moods. Booth vinyl had the tired cracks of small-town stories. A prom breakup here, a surprise proposal there, a whole lot of everyday in between. And then the bikes rolled in. You heard them before you saw them. Throaty engines falling to cocky idle, laughter loud enough to overtalk the radio. Three men, all leather and patches and the kind of swagger you get when most of your friends say yes out of habit. They pushed through the door shoulder first, bells on the handle jangling like a warning the room didn't heed fast enough. Boots on tile, belts clinking. That smell of cold road and cheap cigarettes shoved itself inside like it paid rent. They took over a corner booth by the window, the one with a view of every table and the counter, a stage where they could be their own audience. The one in front, big, bearded, sunglasses still on, slapped both palms on the formica and announced, "Table service for kings." His name stitched on his vest read Rev. The second, wiry with a mean grin, Sparks started drumming forked tines on the water glasses like he expected them to keep time. The third, Boone, thick neck, prison-pale knuckles, stretched across the aisle as if the walkway belonged to his legs. Linda came out of the kitchen with the order pad tucked into the belly of her apron. 8 months along, give or take a week, she moved with that careful courage pregnant women develop, one hand steadying the tray, the other pressed to the small of her back like a promise to herself. She de-worked the dinner rush, which meant 3 coffees per cop, 2 refills per trucker, and every complaint from every person who decided their fries should have been crispier than physics allowed. But she still brought her yes to the table because this was her place, and because kindness is muscle memory. "Evening, gentlemen," she said, breath a little shallow. "Coffee to start." Rev leaned back, sunglasses lifting just enough to show the kind of eyes that enjoy finding lines to cross. "You bring whatever keeps that belly upright," he said, gesturing vaguely toward her midsection. Sparks snorted. Boone smiled with his teeth and not his mouth, which is how wolves do it right before the wrong thing. Linda's smile thinned but held. She poured coffee. The pot trembled a little in her hand, the china took it personally and rattled. "We've got the country special tonight," she said. "Meatloaf, mashed green beans, or the skillet burger. Fries are fresh." "Bet you've been sampling," Sparks said, eyes sliding down and back up with the delicacy of a muddy boot. "Carrying a whole lot of special." A man in the corner, a retiree who wore the same ball cap every day because grief keeps time that way, looked away, jaw tight. 2 teenagers at the counter stopped halfway through their milkshake argument and went quiet. The cook, a big bruiser named Gene with tattoos he no longer bragged about, peered through the pass and then disappeared, the way good men sometimes do when they're not sure permission exists to be brave. Boone took his spoon and set it on the edge of his cup, balancing it like a seesaw. "How far along?" he said, voice syrupy, "just so we know whether to eat fast or expect a splash." Laughter loud and ugly, not the kind that releases, the kind that performs. Linda, cheeks flushed, let her free hand fall to her belly. Maybe to hide it, maybe to steady the small, quiet life inside who hadn't asked to hear any of this. "Meatloaf for you gentlemen," she asked, keeping her tone polite by force. "Fries all around." Rev let his sunglasses drop back into place. "Sweetheart, bring the fries, but see if you can manage not to drop them." His finger made a circling motion at her belly like he was conducting humiliation. "Looks like you're balancing a beach ball there." Sparks slapped the table. Boone actually brayed. A couple at a nearby booth stared at their menus as if reading could make them invisible. The neon sign ticked louder. Somewhere, a coffee machine coughed. Linda's smile collapsed, her hand shook. "I'll put that in," she said. She turned, took 1 step. Then the door opened just a slice at first, and everything in the diner changed temperature. Boots, not fast, not loud, deliberate, the kind of step that says, "I have time and I will use it." The silhouette in the doorway was backlit by sign blue. Broad shoulders, close-cropped head, the kind of calm you can smell if you've ever been close enough to trouble to know it wears cologne. Jasonstatham. He didn't enter so much as arrive. He took in the room like a man surveying a map he intended to redraw. Booths, exits, where the wait lived. His eyes moved without hurry from the retiree with his hat, to the teenagers playing statues, to Jean peeking again, to Linda frozen mid-step with her tray, and finally to the three men who mistook cruelty for personality. "Afternoon," Jason said. The word was soft like a match against a book of strikers. No one answered. Even the ceiling fans forgot their beat for a moment. Jason stepped in. The door side closed behind him. He moved to the counter and took the end stool, the one near the swinging kitchen door, the one every regular knows is best for seeing without being seen. He didn't sit like a man about to eat. He sat like a man prepared to wait. Linda exhaled a little, enough to remember breathing exists. She slid the tray onto the pass for a heartbeat, then brought him a coffee because muscle memory is kindness and routine is a lifeline. "On the house," she said. Jason met her eyes. There was no pity in his. Pity is a second humiliation. What he carried was recognition. It passed between them quietly, something like, "I saw," and something like, "I'm here." "Charge me," he said, and the corner of his mouth threatened an almost smile. "Make it strong." She nodded, turned back toward the booth of three storms pretending to be men. She didn't want to, but there are bills and there is rent, and there is a due date that doesn't reschedule for anyone. She approached with pen lifted, and the tiny protective tilt every pregnant woman learns when a room starts to feel like weather. Rev noticed the new equation, the man at the counter, the eyes that didn't look away. He straightened, which only made him smaller. "You bringing our food or staring at the door?" he said to Linda, but his chin cut toward Jason. "I'm bringing it," she said. "Meatloaf, fries, coleslaw, ketchup." "Bring extra," Sparks said. "Might need it for the splash." That did it. The retiree set his cup down too carefully, as if gentleness could seduce courage out of hiding. The teenagers looked at each other in that we should do something way kids have when they still believe adults are in charge. Jean leaned fully into the past now, forearms planted, the hot lamps turning the tattoos on his skin into old maps. Jason blew across his coffee and didn't drink. His eyes never left the booth. He didn't call out, didn't announce himself, just watched. Some men require a stage. Others turn rooms into stages by standing still. Linda delivered the plates, set them down with the minimum of contact, the maximum of grace. As she lifted the last basket of fries, Boone pushed his leg out, not by accident. His boot caught the edge of the serving tray. The basket tilted. Linda's hand shot to save it, all reflex, no thought, and the weight shift yanked her balance forward. Her other hand flew to her belly. The basket clattered, fries scattering like dry rain. The ketchup cup pinwheeled and landed with a wet clap right on Rev's vest. A beat of stillness. Then Rev stood fast, performative, and shoved the table so it rattled the window. "Look what you did," he barked, grabbing at the smear like he'd been wounded, not fed. "You clumsy," he let the sentence dangle because sometimes the unsaid is worse. Linda, eyes huge, palms open and empty, breathed. I'm so sorry," which is what people say when they know apologies are ransom and they don't have another currency. Rev took a step toward her. Not big, big enough. Sparks put on the grin men wear when they want to see blood and hope someone else starts the cut. Boone tilted his head, amused like this was a show they'd paid for. Jason set his cup down. The china didn't clink. It touched the counter like it knew to behave. He stood. The stool legs whispered a warning against the tile. He didn't stride. He didn't prowl. He walked straight line, even pace, until he was close enough that the three had to decide whether to keep looking brave or start feeling honest. "Pick up your fries," Jason said, to no one and to everyone. Sparks laughed first because there's always one who thinks laughter is armor. "Who's asking, mate?" Jason's eyes shifted to him for exactly a heartbeat, then back to Rev. "I am." Rev squared up a fraction, sunglasses sliding down. "You got business here." Jason considered the question like it was multiple choice with a correct answer and 100 wrong ones. "She's my business," he said simply, tipping his chin toward Linda without looking away from the man who wanted to be the problem. "She your girl," Boone said, sniffing a story he could pretend to steal. "She's a person carrying a person," Jason said, "and you three are behaving like you've forgotten what that means." Silence isn't always quiet. This one hummed. The whole diner leaned toward it, even the neon. Rev's laugh came late, which made it brittle. "You think a hero walked in," he said to the room, trying to recruit witnesses into accomplices. "Movie man, huh? Gonna film something. I didn't sign a release." Jason's mouth didn't move. "Pick up your fries." A twitch traveled Rev's jaw. Sparks started to stand, trying to be taller by changing altitude. Boone's hand drifted near his belt, not for a weapon, even he wasn't that dumb, but for the illusion of one. Jason took half a step closer, not dramatic, enough to move the math. Or, he added softly, "Don't, and I'll explain why you should." Gene cleared his throat from behind the pass. "Hey now." Jason lifted a hand without looking back. "Not a stay out of it. It's handled." Gene, who'd made his living reading heat, lowered his chin and watched. Rev wiped ketchup from his vest with 2 fingers and flicked it to the floor like he was christening the moment. He leaned forward so his breath reached Jason's face. "You walk in here like you own it," he said, "but you're alone." Jason's eyes didn't blink. "Count again," he said very gently. The room did. The retirees and teenagers and truckers and waitress and cook and even the neon. It turned out alone is a trick word. It dissolves the second someone chooses not to be. Rev must have felt the ground tilt. He pivoted to menace Linda instead, because cowards can do math but only the kind with soft answers. He flicked a fry hard, stinging her forearm. "Clean it," he snapped, pointing at the mess. She flinched. Instinct put her hands up. Jason's voice arrived there first. "Don't." The word was a door closing. Rev swung his eyes back. "What are you, her daddy?" "No," Jason said. "I'm the man between you and your worst decision." Boone guffawed, because laughter fills the space where wisdom would fit if it bothered to show. Sparks cracked his neck and did that thing men do when they want to seem dangerous. He rolled his shoulders like it would conjure menace out of cartilage. Jason's gaze flicked to the floor. He knelt, picked up the basket, set it on the table. He crouched for 2 fries, 3, a fourth, every motion unhurried. Then he straightened and set the fries beside Rev's plate. The smallness of the act made it louder than shouting. "There," he said. "Now you do the same with your mouth." "What?" Sparks said, unready for metaphors. "Close it," Jason said. Little sounds returned, forks against plates, the ceiling fan remembering its job, but nobody truly moved. People are born for this theater. The good man beside the wrong man beside the better ending that might arrive if someone writes it. Rev leaned in so close the sunglasses touched Jason's forehead. "You think you can talk to me like that because you've been in pictures," he said. "Out here, it's leather and road, not lights and cameras." Jason, voice still soft, as if he were tutoring a child and not hitting the stove twice. "You mistake quiet for pretend." He turned his face by a degree, and the sunglasses squeaked against his skin. "Apologize to her." Boone smirked. "Or what?" Jason finally let his eyes change. Just a little. The air around the table had the feeling air gets before lightning. "Or I show you how men act when there isn't a crowd cheering them on." Sparks pushed off the booth. He meant to square up. He stumbled instead, boots slick on a fry underfoot. His hands went wide, comic for half a second until no one laughed. He recovered with an angry shake and took a step at Jason, chin first. Jason didn't hit him. He didn't even touch him. He moved his foot just a nudge, a half step to the left, guiding Sparks past the line where clumsy becomes embarrassed. Sparks pitched forward and thumped chest first into the edge of the counter. His breath left with a rude sound. Behind the pass, Gene snorted before he remembered not to. "Careful," Jason said, "the way you say it to a toddler near the coffee table corner." Sparks spun, face modeling, and reached, not for a weapon but for Jason's jacket. His fingers found the lapel. Jason's hand closed over Sparks's wrist, not hard, final, and Sparks's knees softened as if he belatedly learned gravity costs extra. Jason didn't twist. He didn't crank. He merely placed the wrist back near Sparks's chest as if returning a borrowed thing. The message was, "I can break you." The message was, "I choose not to." Boone stood now fully. He was the biggest of the 3 and the least accustomed to failing at simple things like intimidation. He shifted like a man about to throw. Jason's eyes told him that would be a mistake. Boone read well under pressure for once. He didn't throw. Rev wiped his fingers again, then finally took off the sunglasses. His eyes weren't the eyes of a leader. They were the eyes of a man rehearsing. He glanced around the diner, seeking the echo his voice used to get. No one echoed. The retirees had turned in their seats to watch. The teenagers sat on their hands to stop them from shaking. The trucker in the corner had his wallet out as if fines might be levied, and he wanted to be first in line to pay Jason's. Linda stood with both hands on the small of her back again, not from pain now, but from a strange, brave posture the body invents when it's done being pushed. Her chin lifted. She wasn't alone anymore. That's a kind of armor better than leather. Rev felt it, the room leaving him. He chose a smaller target. He pointed at the fry on the tile. She made the mess, he said. She cleans it. Jason's eyes didn't move from his. You apologize, he said. Then you leave a tip that hurts and you ride out quiet. The request wasn't a request, it was a map. Or I what? Rev said, grasping for a cliff to jump from that wouldn't end the way cliffs end. Or you say one more thing, Jason replied, and I stop being polite. He hadn't raised his voice. That's how everyone knew he meant it. Gene came around the pass then, not to fight, but to stand. He put himself at Jason's shoulder like a man who'd remembered that permission doesn't come from bullies. It comes from deciding you're done auditioning for them. The retiree stood, too, creaking up from the booth. One of the teenagers slid off his stool and stepped closer to Linda. Alone dissolves quickly when someone chooses to be first. Sparks saw the math change. He tugged his wrist out of the air where Jason had left it and mumbled something that could be translated, in a charitable dialect, as maybe we should bounce. Boone stared at the fry on the floor like it might offer counsel. Rev took a long breath that shook on the way in and got lost before it went out. Say it, Jason prompted, gentle. 2 words, you can manage that. Rev swallowed. His tongue tried on a shape it hadn't worn in a while. I'm sorry, he said, just above a whisper to Linda, which is who apologies are for. Silence took measure of the words. They were not much. They were more than nothing. Linda nodded once, small, and rested one palm on her belly like she was letting someone inside know the storm was passing. Jason's chin dipped, a thank you to the room for holding its breath. Then he tipped his head toward the table. Now the other part, he said, and go. They fumbled bills, too many because fear carries interest. Sparks fished a crumpled wad from his pocket and added it. Boone peeled 2 20s and a 10 he looked like he'd miss. Rev tossed 100 as if it had bitten him. The pile sat there, ugly and generous, which is how bad nights sometimes settle their tab. They scraped their fries into the basket, 3 grown men performing an elementary act under supervision, and shuffled to the door. The bell didn't jangle this time. It asked permission and got none. Engines coughed awake outside. The bikes rolled away, smaller than when they'd arrived. The room exhaled. Jason turned to Linda. You okay? She nodded, and this nodded. Wait, I am now. Gene clapped him once on the shoulder, a big man's thank you spoken with palm and bone. The retiree saluted with his cup. The teenagers found their voices all at once and tripped over sir, and that was awesome, and are you, before deciding explanations weren't required. Jason slid the pile of cash across the table to Linda without touching it like it might explode. For the baby's first something, he said. She shook her head. I can't. You can, he said, because they could, a beat, and because it'll remind you the world's not just them. She touched the money like it might bite and then laughed soft, because sometimes relief comes out in strange shapes. Can I get you that coffee, fresh one, on the house? This time I'll insist. He smiled then, the first real one. Make it strong, he said again. She poured. Gene slid a plate of fries, the good, fresh ones. The retiree told a joke not worth writing down, and everyone laughed anyway. The neon went back to humming. The ceiling fans remembered their beat. Jason took his stool at the counter again, sipped, and finally let his eyes move away from the door. He didn't look like a hero. He looked like a man who'd seen enough nights to recognize which ones he was supposed to interrupt. Outside, the highway kept bending. Inside, the diner set itself softly back into place. And somewhere in the room, without anyone saying it out loud, a new line drew itself on the floor, not the kind you cross, the kind that keeps you from forgetting what people are for.